Thank you, Peg. Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. I am delighted to share some of my book with you. I've been very lucky to be moving across the country at the same time that I published a book, so I've been able to do a number of readings, and I'm especially happy to be here with you in Sausalito tonight. I'm going to read from, let's say, the last third of the book. The two characters who have a meal together in this section, the narrator is an 18-year-old American woman in rural northern Denmark during the summer after her graduation from high school. And she is alone for the first time with a mysterious local hermit. The morning of my lunch with Gaydon, I pulled my lilac dress over my head and examined myself in the mirror. The color still complemented my complexion, and the fit hadn't changed, but the dress was wrong. I couldn't see it or feel it without seeing the faces in its history. Sylvie's on the day we had bought it together, and Søren's sometime later, taking me from behind in the bedroom with the skirt bundled at my waist. I stripped the dress off and dropped it on the floor, barely restraining the urge to stomp on it. What would I wear? The rush of practical anxiety was comforting. It had been weeks since I cared. I dumped my drawer out on the bed and picked through it, vetoing everything with a memory. Not the t-shirt from the Michigan City corn roast. Not the maroon skirt with the elastic waistband that Mama had brought back from Boston. Not the hard-won jeans I had found after hours of searching. I was left with black pants, a black t-shirt, a black sweater. It wasn't the prettiest outfit, but it was more important to be free. The sky was a seasick green. Trees crashed together in the wind. I rounded the bend. Gaydon stood beside his little beige truck. He saw me, smiled, and waved. I ducked my head, scared that Søren would appear. The pulled-down top of Gaydon's overalls hung at his hips like a skirt. Beneath, he wore a close-fitting black pullover. When I came close, he said my name, bending the R in his strange way. "Hi," I said. "Hi," he aped, as if he had never heard the word before. We stared at each other. This is a bad idea, I thought. Gaydon opened the passenger door. "Please." For a moment, I was sure I would leave, just turn and go. How could I know this was safe? Then I was in the car. I clicked my seatbelt closed, keeping my hand on the buckle like it was a gun. Gaydon shut my door and walked around the back, drumming his fingers on the body of the truck. A bald man appeared at the margin of the park. My breath caught in my throat. Søren, with his bag and his dark green pants. I closed my eyes and counted, bracing myself. Gaydon climbed into the driver's side, bringing with him his own smell. Woods, sweat, smoke. He had taken off the coveralls and undershirt, and now wore only what looked like a pair of black leggings. I gripped my door handle. "We will go to Viborg," Gaydon said. "A medieval capital, a Viking capital." "Okay," I said quickly, trying to take deep breaths. I thought I could see Søren's facial expression. First, total incomprehension, eyebrows slightly lifted, little mouth forming a question, segueing quickly into baffled anger lit by a victorious sense of offense. My mind spun out, seeking plausible explanations for what I might be doing here in the park at Gaydon's truck. There were none. Søren would perceive everything. Crazily, I hoped he would hit me. I wanted some physical proof of his cruelty to show Gaydon. To explain it. Gaydon started the truck and pulled away from the curb. I expected Søren to rush the car, to put himself in its path, bang on the hood, but he did nothing. When I turned to look, he had already passed. Now all I could see was his back. His gait was off, his shoes a garish yellow, his pants gray. It wasn't him. The truck careened through a roundabout, barreling out the last exit. Buildings pulled away from the road, and we were out in farm country alongside wide fields. I let myself look at him. A dense black fur covered the center of his slender chest, his shoulders rising over his jutting clavicle. His neck ran up to his face in careful hollows. I put words in my mouth to fill it. "Do you have a restaurant picked out?" Gaydon snorted. I couldn't tell if it was a form of laughter or an actual snort. "Yes, I have one picked out." He set the words apart with delight. "Are you making fun of the way I talk?" "I do not make fun." "Then why say my words like that?" Gaydon turned, and I saw with surprise that he was hurt. It is unusual for me to meet native English speakers, especially Americans. Forgive me for finding the way that you speak novel. He took one hand from the wheel and extended it toward me. "I will not insult you. Will you treat me with the same respect?" I took his hand. "Of course." "You say it as if it is automatic, but it is not," Gaydon said, still holding my hand with his right as he curbed the wheel with his left. "I respect you." "I respect you. Thank you." Gaydon dropped my hand as easily as he had taken it. We drove through shopping areas interpolated by stretches of farmland specked with horses and cows and a few sheep. Long, low houses with thatched roofs. Ex-urban Denmark, a new landscape. Big box stores, or what I assumed were big box stores, massive rectangles of black glass and smooth white cement at the center of vast parking lots. People hauled uncooperative children out of cars. The silence in the truck hung heavy. "I don't know anything about you," I said to make it real, what we were doing. "But you know so much about me." Gaydon laughed. "I have only observed. I am used to learning about people, about strangers, by watching, the habit of a friendless man." He smiled, bare, reticent, concerned. "And what have you observed?" "You are a young woman in the care of one older man and currently in the vehicle of another. Both men are foreign to you, recent acquaintances." I crossed my arms at the elbow and let my hands flop in my lap. "So?" He spoke softly. "You are a young girl, and you live with a grown man who speaks a language you do not. You live with him in his country." "I am not a young girl," I said. "I am a woman." "Fair enough." He leaned back into his seat. "What do you wish to know about me?" I straightened, trying to catch my breath. "What do you do for a living?" He looked at me oddly. "I mean, what is your job?" "I am a scove rider. The word translates to forest rider. A bit like Oliver Mellers, you might say, although I care for the trees rather than for game." He gave me a naughty little grin. "I don't know who that is." "He's an imaginary man from a long-ago book." Gaydon wiped the space between us. "I am employed by the municipality. I keep track of the forest. I monitor the growth of plants, as well as the populations of deer, birds, and other animals." "Are you from Farso?" He shook his head. "I've lived here a long while." "How long?" "Since I came from Bosnia when I was 13 years old." I turned to examine him more closely. "Why did you move?" "My family lived in Sarajevo until the city was torn apart by war. We feared we would die and fled our country as refugees. We were held in a camp here in Jutland until I was nearly 18. "A camp? Like a concentration camp?" The corners of his mouth twitched a brief, flickering smile. "Our camp was humanitarian, in intention anyway. Limbo. My parents were not authorized to work until we were granted asylum. By that time, any idea that my grandparents would find new lives here was completely lost. Your grandparents came with you too? Yes. I looked at my hands, my chewed up cuticles and unlined palms. Are you a Muslim? He laughed. You sound very grave. I'm sorry, it doesn't matter. I'm being rude. You are not being rude, Roxana, Gaydon said. You are being direct. I admire that. Yes, I am Muslim. Not particularly observant for my own reasons, although not practicing makes me better in the eyes of everyone here. Is that why Soren hates you so much? I asked before I could stop myself. Because I am an ambivalent believer in the Quran? I do not think so, he said. I always had the sense Soren disliked me on sight. I studied his face for a long time, long enough that I expected him to turn away, but he did not. Eventually, we came to what looked like the outskirts of a city, with dense buildings clustered on the horizon among a handful of spires and towers. Gaydon wove the little truck into the winding streets, past brick and stone buildings, countless iterations of ceramics showrooms. An austere old church, white and dignified on a hill. In a small lot, he parked and leapt from the car. I watched him climb back into his coveralls in the rearview mirror, pulling his black shirt over his head. He opened my door. You must think I'm a beast, driving shirtless like that. Forgive me. My work makes me very hot. He licked his lips. I looked away. Where are we going? An American restaurant. It was tucked inside a white building with a red tile roof, one in a curving line of white buildings with red tile roofs on a square, a place. The Danish word was plads. But I thought of a square as somewhere people would want to linger with cafes, a fountain. This was just a parking lot. From the outside, it looked like any other Danish restaurant, a dim storefront whose exterior no one had given much thought. Gaydon opened the door, shaking the shiny red buckle of silver sleigh bells attached to the hinge. Mama put a set like this on our mantle every December, beside the giant pine cone she kept in a big Tupperware in the attic the rest of the year. But it wasn't Christmas, it was August. We stepped inside. The lower half of a submarine marked with the words Deep Diver protruded from a green-painted oval surrounded by track lighting in the center of the ceiling. Every surface was covered in a label or sign or poster or other bit of American ephemera. New York sandwiches, Chicago dancing, New Orleans pizza, California stew. The wall above the table was decorated with a pair of ice skates, a framed black and white photograph of old-timey football players in leather helmets, and a giant neon sign offering Buick service in hot orange cursive. The place was called Bones, or Bones with an apostrophe, both spellings plastered interchangeably all over the dining room. A listless blonde waitress appeared, wearing a black polo shirt with bones embroidered over her slouchy left boob, and led us to a blonde wood table, identical to the one on which Soren and I ate dinner every night in the apartment. The chair spindles were cut in the shape of bones. The waitress thrust two laminated menus at us. Thank you, Gaydon said in an exaggerated American accent. We are so excited to have some real food from home. I stared at him incredulously. She slurred uncomfortable English. Would you like beers? 2 beers, Gaydon said, still playing American, hissing the S. Please. The waitress disappeared. Gaydon made a neat stack of the menus at the edge of the table. I didn't get a chance to look yet, I protested. Why are you talking like that? He resumed his normal voice. You will have a cheeseburger. Don't tell me what I'm going to order. Gaydon laughed. Cheeseburgers are the only edible item here. He handed me a menu. You do not want to eat the ribs. The less said of the barbecue, the better. Trust me. I looked into his eyes, rimmed with black lashes. His eyebrows were so evenly shaped, I wondered if he waxed them. The hollows under his cheekbones were violet. His hair was blue where the light caught it. What did he see when he looked at me? I do, I said softly. He grinned at me. We are getting married. I trust you. My face was hot. The waitress reappeared with 2 pints of golden beer. Thank you very much, Gaydon said, American again. We would like 2 cheeseburgers, please. The waitress reluctantly opened her pink mouth. Palm fritter? Gaydon stared at her uncomprehendingly. The waitress sighed and tucked a hank of yellow hair behind her ear. Do you want fries? She fairly spat. Gaydon smiled like he had won the lottery. Oh, yes, please, and salad on the burgers. Go to the salad bar, she said. We watched her black work pants slump away. Why are you pretending to be American? I whispered. He opened his hands. Look around the room. What do you see? The other customers were families with children. Nearly every table had red balloons tied to its chairs. Tow-headed little kids toddled aimlessly, politer and quieter than any American children I had ever seen. I looked back at Gaydon. Balloons? This is a place people bring their children, popular for birthdays. What could be more lovely than feeding your little child some Dane's idea of American food in a windowless restaurant in Preisler's Place? You didn't answer my question. I pretended to be American because I wanted the waitress to treat us well, Roxana. We are not Danes to her. What do you mean? He leaned across the table, speaking quickly. Danish families come here, people who work in factories and as pedagogues and in shops. Who knows what they might do if they discovered 2 suspicious foreigners in their midst? You are a bit swarthy, as am I. We could be Arab. His eyes twinkled. We could be Bosnian. A little boy in a red shirt ran by, bleating, 9, 9, 9, 9. Thank you.